Some people do not want another prayer. They want a code, something older than modern self-help, something hidden in the bones of Scripture, something that feels ancient, mathematical, sacred, and dangerously close to forbidden. And that hunger is exactly why Gematria fascinates people. Because once you learn that in Hebrew, letters also carry numerical value, the Bible can start to feel like more than text. It feels patterned, layered, charged with design. Suddenly, a word is not just a sound. It is a number, a structure, a hidden correspondence waiting to be noticed. And for a person who has lived through lack, pressure, delayed provision, and the humiliation of watching life stay tight, while everyone around them seems to move ahead, that kind of discovery can feel intoxicating. Maybe there is a code. Maybe there is a hidden architecture. Maybe the surface was never the whole thing. That instinct is not foolish, but it is vulnerable. Because whenever people are in pain, they become easier to seduce with secret knowledge. And the promise usually sounds the same. You do not need process. You do not need patience. You do not need wisdom. You do not need to wrestle, sow, build, or endure. You just need the hidden key. That is where discernment becomes holy. Gematria is real as a historical Jewish interpretive practice. Hebrew letters do carry numerical values. Ancient and medieval Jewish interpreters used gematria to explore textual connections, symbolic meaning, and mystical insight. But turning that into a guaranteed mechanism for instant wealth is a very different claim. It moves from interpretation into technique, from reverence into control, from mystery into manipulation. And that shift matters. Because once people are desperate, they start confusing symbolism with transaction. They start treating the sacred like a keypad. Press the right sequence. Say the right name. Add the right number. Align the right frequency. And abundance must appear. That fantasy is powerful because it promises relief without formation. No slow renewal. No change of character. No stewardship. No surrender. No obedience stretched over time. Just activation. And if we are honest, almost everyone understands the emotional appeal of that. There are seasons where you get tired of process, tired of planting, tired of waiting, tired of hearing that wisdom matters when your bills are louder than wisdom. In those moments, secret systems become deeply attractive because they whisper that pain can be bypassed. But Scripture rarely works that way. Scripture is full of hiddenness, yes. Patterns, yes. Numbers, yes. Layers, absolutely. But biblical hiddenness is usually given to deepen reverence, not replace responsibility. That is a very important distinction. A mystery can draw you closer to God. A technique can tempt you to use God. And those are not the same path. The ancient world did not separate letters, sound, number, and meaning the way modern people often do. Hebrew letters carried shape, sound, symbolic significance, and numerical value, which is why gematria became part of Jewish mystical and interpretive tradition. It was a way of noticing resonances within the text, not a laboratory-proven wealth engine. That does not make it worthless. It makes it more interesting, because the power of gematria may not be that it forces outcomes. Its power may be that it trains attention. It slows you down. It makes you notice. It invites you to read Scripture as crafted, layered, and alive with interconnection. That is valuable. But the human heart is always tempted to take what was meant for contemplation and turn it into a shortcut. And when that happens, the soul usually becomes more anxious, not less. Because now everything depends on whether you found the exact code. Was it this name or that one? This sequence or that one? This number or that total? Did I pronounce it correctly? Did I align it enough? Did I miss the key? That is not freedom. That is spiritualized pressure. And one of the deepest ironies is that people searching for secret abundance formulas often end up more bound than before. Not by lack, by obsession. There is another way to approach this, a wiser way. Instead of asking, How do I use sacred numbers to force wealth into my life? Ask, what do these patterns reveal about the kind of reality Scripture is inviting me to inhabit? That question changes the whole atmosphere. Now Gematria becomes a doorway into wonder, not a machine. Now numbers become signs of depth, not buttons to push. Now mystery becomes relational again. And that matters because the Bible does have a wealth pattern. It just does not usually look like instant coded extraction. It looks like trust, speech aligned with truth, stewardship, open-handedness, generosity, discipline, attention, seed and harvest, wisdom over fantasy, patience without passivity. That may sound less dramatic than a supernatural money code, but it is stronger because it can survive reality. People often search for a phrase like quantum Bible wealth because they sense that the visible world is not the whole world. In one sense, they are right. Scripture absolutely presents reality as layered, meaningful, and responsive to faith, wisdom, and obedience. But that is different from claiming a numerological mechanism can guarantee immediate material abundance. The difference is enormous. One path invites awe, the other sells certainty. One path cultivates discernment, the other often exploits urgency. One path forms a person, the other flatters desperation. And this is where the conversation gets uncomfortable, because many people do not actually want formation when they are hurting. They want relief. That is human, understandable, tender. But it is also where manipulation enters most easily. So let's be honest about the ache underneath all this. A person drowning in scarcity is not merely asking for money. They are often asking for breathing room, dignity, peace, choice, safety, hope. And when those needs go unmet long enough, the nervous system becomes willing to believe almost anything that sounds ancient, anointed, and immediate. That is why this conversation deserves compassion, not mockery. The hunger is real, but hunger should not make you easy to deceive. If this is touching a real place in you, I would genuinely love to know, what part of this tension feels most familiar to your own journey? Not as a test, just as an honest conversation, because many people are carrying this same question quietly. There is still something beautiful here. Numbers in Scripture do matter. Patterns matter. Repetition matters. Names matter. The biblical imagination is not flat. You see 7s, 12s, 40s, 10s. You see genealogies, measurements, temple patterns, repeated phrases, symbolic structures. The text is architected, and that should awaken reverence. But reverence is different from extraction. The moment mystery becomes a tool for domination, it begins to lose its holiness. That is worth sitting with. Because maybe the deeper abundance code in Scripture is not hidden in a sequence you can weaponize. Maybe it is hidden in a kind of person you must become. A person who can handle increase without panic. A person who is not mastered by money, even while praying for more of it. A person who can discern the difference between faith and fantasy. A person whose mouth is aligned with truth. A person whose hands know how to build. A person whose heart can receive without worshipping the gift. That kind of abundance is slower, but it is real. And strangely enough, it often opens the door to material change too. Not because the universe was hacked, because the person was reordered. That is a much more biblical pattern. If you want to talk about frequency in a meaningful way, then maybe start there. What is the emotional and spiritual frequency of your life right now? Fear, urgency, envy, exhaustion, resentment, greedy fantasy, or grounded expectancy, peace, clarity, steady faith, open hands? Those things shape choices. Choices shape patterns. Patterns shape outcomes. That may not satisfy the part of us that wants instant miracle mathematics, but it respects reality enough to actually help. And interestingly, even some critics of extravagant gematria claims point out the obvious methodological danger. Once someone is determined to prove a hidden message, They can selectively connect numbers until almost anything appears meaningful. That is why caution matters. The existence of numerical symbolism does not prove every conclusion drawn from it. That warning is not anti-mystery. It protects mystery from abuse. Because once everything becomes a code, nothing stays sacred for long. And once every sacred thing becomes a technique, people stop listening for wisdom and start hunting leverage. That is not spiritual maturity. That is anxiety dressed in ancient language. Now, none of this means you should stop exploring. Far from it. Study the Hebrew letters. Learn the numerical values. Read the history. Notice the patterns. Let it expand your wonder. But do it with clean hands. Do it to see more deeply, not to control more aggressively. Do it to understand Scripture's layered beauty, not to turn God into a vending system. Do it with reverence for the Jewish tradition that carried these interpretive practices, not as a detached wealth hack. That posture changes everything. And if you are trying to build a life of biblical abundance that is both spiritually alive and practically grounded, that is exactly why I created the Quantum Wealth Scripture Journal. It is a 30-day journey of scripture, reflection, and practical money moves designed to renew your thinking, clarify your stewardship, and help you align faith with real action. If that speaks to where you are, it is in the description and the first comment. And for those who quietly support this channel through membership, thank you. Truly. That support helps sustain this work in a deeper way, and members also receive early access to videos. It is a simple, meaningful form of partnership, and I am deeply grateful for it. There is a reason people keep reaching for phrases like abundance Bible code, Bible prosperity secrets, or biblical wealth hacks. They are searching for compressed wisdom, a way through, a pattern they can trust, a hidden structure inside chaos. That longing is not wrong, but the answer may be more relational, more moral, and more demanding than the language of secret activation suggests. Because Scripture does not merely ask, "What numbers do you know?" It asks, "Who are you becoming? What spirit is shaping your desires? What words are forming your inner world? What do you do with what is already in your hand? Can you be trusted with increase? Can you recognize abundance when it arrives in seed form rather than spectacle?" Those questions are less exciting than mystical immediacy, but they are usually where real breakthrough begins. Think about a farmer. A desperate farmer can stare at a seed and demand it become a field by nightfall. Or he can understand the laws already woven into reality and cooperate with them. The first posture is panic. The second is wisdom. Much of spiritual growth is learning the difference. There are times when God does move suddenly. Provision can come fast. Doors can open in ways you did not predict. A breakthrough can arrive with breathtaking timing. But suddenness is not the same thing as a formula. And that matters. Because when people chase formulas, disappointment often hardens into cynicism. But when people walk in wisdom, even delay can become preparation instead of collapse. So maybe the invitation here is not to mock the language of codes and frequencies, but to redeem it. Maybe the real biblical code is alignment. Maybe the real wealth frequency is peace with responsibility. Maybe the real prosperity secret is becoming the kind of person who can recognize, receive, and steward what God sends. Maybe the real hidden pattern is that abundance often enters quietly, through clarity, discipline, relationships, opportunity, timing, courage, and faithful action. That may not sound as dramatic as immediate supernatural wealth through ancient numerical frequency, but it has the advantage of being both spiritually serious and humanly livable. And perhaps that is what makes it beautiful. The sacred does not always need to be reduced to a mechanism to be powerful. Sometimes it is powerful precisely because it refuses to be reduced. Gematria can remain mysterious. Numbers can remain meaningful. Patterns can remain holy, without becoming a guarantee, without becoming a trap, without becoming one more burden on already weary people. So if you take anything from this, let it be this. Do not despise the mystery, but do not surrender your discernment. Study deeply, wonder freely, read reverently, question bravely. And when it comes to wealth, do not look only for the code that promises immediate arrival. Also ask what kind of inner architecture abundance requires if it is going to bless your life instead of distort it. Because the most dangerous scarcity is not always the empty bank account. Sometimes it is the desperate mind that has become willing to believe any promise that removes the need for wisdom. If this awakens something in you, share it with someone who has been searching for deeper answers around faith, abundance, and hidden patterns in Scripture. Some conversations are too important to keep private. And I would love to hear your honest perspective in the comments. When you think about hidden codes, sacred numbers, and abundance, what do you feel most drawn to right now? Wonder, caution, hope, or hunger?